Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has given an update on the health status of musician turned lawmaker, that is Bobi Wine. It is the first official clarification on the health of the lawmaker in question. Bobi Wine is currently facing treason charges before military tribunal over the possession of weapons. Local media reported last week. He is now standing at trial before military tribunal. The president used the first 3 paragraphs of his latest release on political ongoings in the country to address Bobi Wine's health, but also slam prominent media outlets for peddling what he said as fake news in relation to the issue. On Thursday, 2 lawyers who attended a military session where one of the MPs, Robert Kyagulanyi, was brought in to be charged, said he was unable to talk or even walk, bore visible injuries, and was not aware of his surroundings. Security agents barred other people, including Kyagulanyi's wife and relatives, from attending the hearing. And still in Uganda, Uganda's opposition, however, insists that 5 Ugandan lawmakers have been detained and tortured by security personnel thereafter. Images of one of their bruised parliamentarians emerged on social media. Among them is Robert Kyagulanyi, lawmaker and musician also known as Bobi Wine, who has gained popularity since he joined parliament last year through scathing criticism of President Yoweri Museveni's government. Police say Kyagulanyi and Francis Zake were arrested after supporters of an independent candidate running in parliamentary by-election threw stones at Museveni's motorcade on Monday in the West Nile region. During the incident, Kyagulanyi's driver was shot dead. Government spokesman of Wono Opondo denied security personnel had deliberately beaten up the lawmaker, and others saying some of these injuries could have been sustained in the course of the confrontation.
In Uganda is not in favor of Museveni. Young people, he has to use violence if he has to keep in power, and we know he wants to stay in power. And we see him, we see our story, like in all of us younger people in this country, we see our story and we see the future. He might not, I'm not saying, a lot of people say, oh, he's going to be the president or something. I don't believe that he might be or he might not be, but I believe that he's a good political mobilizer. I believe that he has a very good skills.
Very unfortunate that 75% of the voters in Uganda today are the youths. We are the majority. But now the regime of President Museveni is charging us to do something which is illegal, in quotes, according to them. But it's legal constitutionally. If we see that someone is misdirecting our country, the Constitution allows us to fight whoever is doing so.
Well, those are developments from Kampala, Uganda. And now joining me in studio is security analyst Enoch Makanga. Enoch, good to see you. Welcome to Bottom Line Africa.
Thank you, thank you.
You've seen developments in Uganda. They understand you've worked there. You've had experience in that country. First of all, before you give us an history, rough picture of how Museveni came into power and, you know, some of the dynamics in that country, perhaps can you talk us through about Bobi Wine's arrest and subsequent detention? Is this really reasonable from a security point of view?
Thank you for inviting me. I don't think it's reasonable because in the first place, this guy is being detained in a military camp. Then you don't understand because, you know, this is not a military man. This is a civilian. He's a member of parliament who's a civilian. So when you arrest a civilian and you take him to a military camp, it doesn't add up. He was supposed to be arrested and be taken to a police station, and from there, as a civilian, the rule of law follows the route. But the way things are going, you can find that maybe my former boss is really worried of this young man because maybe he sees that the boy could create a problem in Uganda.
And it seems like he's the new in Uganda.
Yes.
And we've seen the clashes there, protesters in Kampala, Uganda, the pictures that we've just run there of, you know, police engaging in running battles with some of those who are demanding the release of Bobi Wine. I mean, from your own point of view, what do you think the government of Uganda should do? Because this seems to be running out of control.
I think Museveni, His Excellency the President of Museveni, I think is doing a very big blunder. And the blunder is making Bobi Wine popular. And he has already done it. This is a young man. And you know, in any country, youth make the biggest population. So when you start a war with a young man, then you just know that your days are numbered. If Mugabe had to go out of the game, then now this boy could create a very serious problem in Uganda, because already as things are going right now, I've received phone calls from there. I've seen what's happening in WhatsApp, on social media. I think he needs to change tact, and if possible, he needs to release this guy as soon as yesterday, because the more he keeps him in the military camp, the more things are going to get more complicated, and the more Uganda could run into problems. And we would not we don't want to see our neighbor Uganda in a problem like the one we had here in 2007.
What does this say about Museveni's leadership, bearing in mind that he was some time back, was it through a coup that he took power?
Yes.
So what does this say about him as a person and perhaps the status of democracy in Uganda?
I think Uganda has not reached where we've reached, so we cannot compare Uganda and Kenya. In terms of democracy, they are still far. They are still far in terms of reaching where we are. So I think the best thing I can say is that they have a long way to go to reach where we are in Kenya. Yes.
So perhaps your advice to your former boss, as you already mentioned earlier?
I think I could advise him to let this boy come out of the honorable member of parliament, come out of Makindi, where he has been detained as soon as yesterday, so that the tension goes down. Otherwise, the more this member of parliament is kept in a military camp, I think the more things are going to get tight. And I'm telling you, right now, things are going to blow up. The youth will come out of the streets and he will be in problems.
And there are a lot of people asking, where is Besigye in this? Because everybody thought, he's the face of opposition in Uganda. Does it mean that, he's been made, almost, redundant there in Uganda, that Bobi Wine is now taking over his place?
I think Bobi Wine has come at the right time. I think my friend Besigye should think outside the box. I think his political career has ended. Because even if you saw him coming in, I don't think he has a big crowd like Bobi Wine. Bobi Wine, I think, because of the youth and who he is, and being a musician, a renowned musician, I think he has an upper hand over Besigye.
Of course, we're going to keep a keen eye on the development in Kampala, Uganda, there for our viewers. Many thanks, Enoch Makanga, for your input. And of course, we're still trying to hook up with Nicholas Opio, who is a human rights